I'm joined now by Justin Higgins. He is a strategic communications consultant and has worked in the past for both Democratic politicians and for the Republican presidential campaign in 2016. So welcome to DW. Now,
Thank you very much for having me.
Justin, what lessons could we learn from previous presidential elections, and which of these lessons do you think are being applied in this campaign?
Well, for the viewers, I think we can learn that we may not know the result Tuesday night in the United States or even Wednesday morning. And each of the campaigns has learned a very different lesson. So in 2020, as all viewers know, Trump was maligning early voting and mail-in voting as being fraudulent. So that depressed Republican voters in that regard. This year, they've spent 50, 100, $150 million to try and get out the early vote and mail-in vote by Republicans. Conversely, the Harris campaign, which was the Biden campaign in 2020, did not focus on the ground game due to the pandemic. So this year around, they've learned and they've poured in hundreds of millions of dollars into going out, knocking doors, doing phone bank, and reaching voters and people on an interpersonal level to give them the information to go out and also to try and persuade them to go out.
Can you also talk about how each of the candidates are tailoring their messages for their specific target groups?
Yes. So for VP Harris to win this election, quite frankly, she is going to need elderly voters, senior citizens, college educated voters, and an overwhelming surge from women voters. She's been doing this through focusing on the economy and how she would be better, but also a large focus of her campaign has been on women's rights, and specifically here in the United States, abortion is a big issue. So she has made a very sharp contrast to Trump, and she's also promoted democracy and being a status quo candidate of sort, which many in this country value. Now, Trump, on the other hand, he's used aggressive rhetoric targeting mainly white male voters with low information, so they don't follow the news and they don't vote that often. He's also trying to win over some more Black and Hispanic men who are younger. So his rhetoric has been about how the government is corrupt, about how the United States is in a bad position, and about how his opponents are basically his enemy. So he's been trying to play on their anger to get them out to vote.
I also am wondering about techniques to engage younger voters. What types of innovative strategies have the campaigns been using to appeal to this demographic?
Yes, so this was a big concern for the Democrats specifically, with TikTok being a Chinese-owned company and also Elon Musk taking over social media, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook kind of staying out of the election. So there were major concerns about social media algorithms, but Democrats have been breaking through on these social media apps to reach these voters. And one way that they have been doing this is a very late and very robust surge from celebrities across the board, both your white male, white female, Hispanic, Black and brown celebrities have been going out there, and that has been creating viral moments on social media, which has been very, very important for Democrats to break through these opposition basically controlled platforms. The Republicans, on the other hand, they have kind of stayed true to their messaging to older white male voters. They have relied heavily on Elon Musk on Twitter. They've also relied on some influencers online on TikTok. But quite frankly, their messaging has not broken through. The last thing I'd like to add on this is they thought Israel-Palestine and the campus protests that we saw across the United States would be enough to swing young voters to their party. But their party platform is not offering these young voters anything. So that message has largely fallen on deaf ears.
And are there any ethical concerns that you see arising from the current campaign strategies and, particularly around misinformation?
I mean, there's always misinformation in United States elections. There have been going back to George W. Bush's first election when there were some nasty rumors spread in the primary in South Carolina. So, unfortunately, politics is in many cases a zero-sum game. And of course, there are unethical issues going on. What I am most concerned about is the message coming out of the Trump campaign. They are seeing momentum for Harris. They are seeing a lot of polls swing towards Harris. So they are beginning to seed the ground for a message that this election was illegitimate. I think that that is wholly unconstitutional. It is against the spirit of democracy. And it also is the first type of step you take to seed violence after an election that you lose. So while there may be things going on that aren't meeting the eye of the media, this is by far a critical and potentially existential threat that everybody should be watching. How does each campaign handle a potential election loss? And is one campaign or the other trying to stoke their supporters to prepare for violence?
That was Justin Higgins, strategic communication consultant. Justin, thank you for your insights. Really interesting stuff.